Do you think there's been a big change since the pandemic and lockdown? Because I think for just a hot minute, mental health, work life balance. It was a conversation which was kind of we were all going through this shared experience. So when you had a problem, I could immediately put myself in it and say, okay, cool, I'm feeling that too. Because we're all having kind of a similar experience with this sudden lockdown. Do you think that's continued since?
I think it's getting another shake because now it's trying to figure out how do you adapt back to a hybrid work model. Are people going back in the office full time? Is there some kind of, so it's being kind of hit in a different way because the organizations that led the way you talk about the way you lead your company, it was tough for everyone, but you managed well because the employees felt that you did care and you did think like, hey, this sucks for me. How do I make it suck less for my people?
Yeah.
Versus I was still close enough to a bunch of people who were in people leadership roles, were in HR, were in people and culture roles. Yeah. And the ones who were at places where that innate trust wasn't there, where that innate like giving a shit about employees wasn't part of the fabric, It was impossible. All of a sudden people were like, oh, they really don't care about me. I'm miserable. And that's why people were quitting in droves. And all of a sudden companies are like, hey, if you're working from home, you got to download this app. It's going to track all your clicks. It's going to take a picture of you at your desk every 90 seconds to see what you're up to. Like these are real things that actual companies employed through the pandemic. So it really gave people the moment to pause to think like, what the hell do I want in life? Am I happy here? And if they're feeling miserable or mistreated, they left. And the other cool thing I think that happened too is this realizing that people are people. And it's stupid to think, but I talk to people who realize like, oh, Jay, he's not just an annoying project manager. He's actually has a cute dog. He has a cute dog. He has a nice piece of art behind his desk.
He likes gin too. Yeah.
Like
exactly.
it humanized the coworkers. So it made a big shift. But now it's interesting to see the shakeups on the other end because now it's like, people who really love working from home, are you forcing them back in the office? Is hybrid okay? Does it change per role? And again, back to the companies who are intentional with how they want their companies to be, their employees to feel. It's tough, but they're navigating it. But the companies that aren't, it's really hard.
Indeed. And like I've seen, we'll probably be vilified for this, but we have gone back to the office full time, right? As soon as the government allowed and restrictions released, et cetera, because what we found was people are working from home in kitchens, in the hallway, and they've been there for 10 months. Then the other people in their home who they live with, a family, the wife, whatever, was having to walk around this big machine that we'd dumped in the middle of the, and that's where they're having to do, or they were having to like turn off the washing machine during meetings. Like, come on, oh, we can't have lunch now because I've got a meeting at this time and I live in our kitchen. Like, I did it. I worked out of our kitchen for literally a year, and we're very lucky, right? We've got a 2-bed apartment and my wife uses one as her walk-in closet / her office, right? So when she moved to working from home, no problemo. That was absolutely wonderful and had a space. But I was like, cool, I guess. I'm going to sit up there then, I guess, right? And the worst thing for me, like, that I really found hard to get over was it was staring at me the whole time. We got an open plan kitchen front room thing. So great, shut down, sweet, sit down, glass of wine, whatever you're doing to chill out in the evening. Right. And it was just staring at me. And I've got, I got these silly lights and all kinds of things and stuff. And it's a big old setup. So it's just like, no matter how low down I went down on my sofa, I could still see this thing peering over me. And there just was no stop. I just found that with most people that we were working with. And yet the general consensus when you look out on LinkedIn or, when people are doing sort of, asking the crowd is like, oh no, got to be working from home. And I don't know if that is the freelance community. I don't know if that is people who just don't like their job and don't want to go in and see those people. Ugh, right. Or if home is just much better. But, for us, we're like, if you want to work at home and you can work at home, great on the days that makes sense. Because sometimes you got to get out, we're all taking the piss out of each other left, right, and center. Some days you got to be like, I'm going to get my head down and do all the admin that I, don't do when we're taking the piss. So I'm not going to come in Thursday. Okay, great. You know what I mean? But we found that people, it's nice to be able to come to the office, do it, put it to bed, get out of Dodge, and go home and have your home life and do the home thing. So, but funnily enough, I've seen so many businesses vilified for that. You're like, oh, you're going back into the office. You don't care about people's mental health. And I'm like, no, literally, I'm worried about people's mental health. And I don't want to make our saving of cutting out the rent, killing our office off, which is 3,000 square feet. It's, it's a fair few quid. We could save that money today and be like, here's the machines, you work from home. Hope you've got good internet and a desk. Peace. It's not for me, man. Like,
I think that's the point. You're talking about the vilification, and yes, the narrative publicly seems to be very weighted on the work from home or nothing. And I do look, for some people, if your commute is dreadful, okay. Or if I think you have a valid point. If you don't like the work, if you don't like the people you're working with, if the environment's not great, that makes total sense. But what you're saying to me is you are flexible if people do need to work from home sometimes. But also, I think that's a really valid point that a lot of people haven't realized. Like, not everyone has a 3-bedroom house. Not everyone has an ensuite office. Not everyone has a separate place. And that chaos of working in the middle of the space where you can smell the dirty dishes, where you can see the laundry, where you're being constantly interrupted, that's not healthy either. And it's not one size fits all. It's the same thing. You can't just assume that everyone has that ability and has that set up at home.
And I think so many businesses, especially the very large businesses, the people making these decisions have many, many rooms in their homes. Right? They already have a kick-ass garden office that they sometimes put some weights in and pretend it's a gym, but they already have this space. And I think it ended up on people I was speaking to were sat crisscross applesauce on their beds for 3 months. And like, maybe I'm just too old, but if I try and sit with my legs crossed on my bed and I was a meeting for a day, someone's going to have to come get me. Right? I'll be stuck like that for a week. But even down to us, we were like, right, has everyone got chairs? People were like, of course we've got a chair. And I'm like, no. Have you got an office chair? Right? Because there's a reason we buy these office chairs and don't just have us sitting on, like, I could get a ton of dining room table chairs in here for very cheap. And people are like, no, I'm cool. And then 2 weeks in, we're like, chair? I'm like, yeah, definitely need a chair. Yeah, bring a chair over. But and obviously, one of the things that we were in a wonderful, wonderful position there is we're a small business. We're not having to go around to 700 places and be like, here's your chair. We can do that, and it's not a huge expense, and it's a feasible thing to do. But how do you implement the care that you can provide in a small business in a massive business? Like you're talking to, when people are moving to 250 people arriving next week, who's going to manage them? Who's going to take care of them? Who's going to take care of the managers who's taking care of them?
It's tough. It's a lot to think about. There's a company in Toronto where I really admire the co-founders, and they had a really strict, we work from the office and we're an in-person company prior to the pandemic. And they had really great culture, and the engagement scores were super high. But then when the pandemic hit, they flipped to, no, it's fully, like, they were one of the first companies to say, okay, you can totally work from home. And I don't know if they had 300 or 400 employees at the time. They weren't small potatoes. They weren't huge, but they had at least a couple hundred people. And they said, okay, we can't, your example, can't drive around and give you all chairs, but they gave everyone an allowance. I can't remember what it was, like $1,000 or $1,500, saying, here's money, buy what you need to get comfortable at home, so that at least you have what you need, so we can get through this.
And there's so many people I've spoken to, because I've said, if your internet goes down, I don't have a business internet line at home. I've got some personal internet, which is sketchy sometimes. But are you having to go and buy better internet now? Because otherwise you can't do your job, because are you getting a raise for that? And then people are being like, oh yeah, but I'm not paying my commute. That is inconsequential, right? You know what I mean? Like, if you lived in above your office, if you take the space above your office in London or wherever your town is, right? Does your company pay you less? No. So it's not that has nothing to do with your ability to do your job. Your job should facilitate you with everything you need to work, right? But now they're like, yeah, here's the old laptops we had. The security thing's a nightmare. And I hope you've got internet. See you soon. Oh, okay, great.